Hey everybody, Joe here from the Lions Led by Donkeys podcast. If you enjoy what we do here on the show and you think it's worth your hard-earned money, you can support the show via Patreon. Just a $1 donation gets you access to bonus episodes, our Discord, and regular episodes before everybody else. If you donate at an elevated level, you get even more bonus content. A digital copy of my book, The Hooligans of Kandahar, and a sticker from our Teespring store. Our show will always be ad-free and is totally supporter-driven. We use that money to pay our bills, buy research materials that make this show possible, and support charities like the Kurdish Red Crescent, the Flint Water Fund, and the Halo Trust. Consider joining the Legion of the Old Crow today. And now back to the show.
An army of Jesus Christ which bears his holy cross cannot be beaten.
Does the Count of Tiberius suggest that it could be?
There must be war. God wills it!
Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Lions Led by Donkeys podcast. I'm Joe, and with me today is Liam. What's up, Liam?
What's going on, man? Yeah, I appreciated you people won't hear it out there, but Joe and I were debating what episode to do literally until he hit the record button. So
I believe in professionalism.
There's a
in
lot
this
of
business.
there's your problem seeping into this podcast.
I mean, that's the behind the scenes thing, is that Nate and his people make me sound good, and I don't know what I'm doing. I can write research papers. I cannot do anything else. Now, Liam, if there's one thing that we both enjoy doing, it's making fun of people or making the worst people on earth hate us more, right? So
and they sure do, Joe. They sure fucking do.
We are going to do that again today. Now, if anybody remembers way back long time ago, probably fucking 2 years ago at this point, we did an episode about the People's Crusade, sometimes called the Paupers Crusade, where an old idiot led a group of starving peasants onto the Anatolian plain only to die horribly. Now, the Crusades are probably one of the dumber collections of wars that people still bring up as propaganda. It's kind of a modern thing. Now, this is mostly done by white men with the body composition of a melting candle, or Steven Crowder.
Which I have too, but I'm not out here trying to sack Jerusalem. Well, I'm the good kind of fat guy.
We are going to talk about one of the dumber ones. Probably, I'm going to say second place after the People's Crusade, and this is the Fourth Crusade. I think I remember you guys vaguely talking about this, at least alluding to it on an episode of
we talked about this in the Cathedral episode. I think where I was reading about, I forget what it was, but learning about the siege of Constantinople. Basically on the air, and just people doing some Crusaders raping nuns and shit.
That happened.
The sack of Constantinople, learning about that live on air and just being these are some bad fucking people.
They're not good.
As it turns out.
It turns out most people that gear up for a religious-based war, not good folks. Now, so before we get to that, the nun raping, we have to cover some background stuff. A sentence I never thought I was going to say. So good stuff all around, folks. So between 1176 and 1187, Muslim general and all-around baller-ass leader Saladin took out most of the Crusader states that the previous Crusades managed to prop up in the Holy Lands. If you're not aware of this dynamic, I'm not going to go that far into it. Now, the crown jewel of these was obviously Jerusalem, which was lost in 1187, a city that thankfully has never been the place of combat or civil strife ever since.
Nope.
Moving on.
Nope. Swiftly, baby.
Yep. Now, this left only Tyre, Tripoli, and Antioch still being held on by Crusaders, but with significantly reduced power, and with that comes reduced prestige, which obviously these guys are big fans of, which is why they propped up kingdoms in the middle of nowhere full of random people they brought in from Europe. Thankfully, another thing that has never happened again.
You're one of those guys too. You're just some asshole idiot inbred Habsburg prince, and your dad comes to you while you're playing with your toy soldiers and is guess what, you're gonna be ruler of the fiefdom, and you just gotta get on a horse with all your dudes, and it's the middle of summer and it's 1,800 miles on horseback, and you're sweating and the horse is sweating, and you're just I just want to go home to my incest castle. This is the worst summer vacation ever.
Dad, I want to be a king. We have a king at home.
You're gonna be king, son. Just change the scenery.
You're gonna take over my throne one day. No, not here. You're an idiot. You're going to Antioch. Fuck.
Have fun. Pack light.
Have fun dying of dysentery and the march over. Now, the Third Crusade was launched in response to this and made a lot of sweeping gains, managing to take over bits and pieces of the former Crusader kingdoms of Jerusalem, but not the city itself. The Crusade ended with Saladin and the Crusader armies signing a treaty giving some of the lands back, though like most things in the Crusade, this would be temporary and piss a lot of people off, leading to more conflict. The Crusades did, more than anything, bring some lands under Christendom. However, it exposed that Christians really fucking hated one another, it turns out. Now, this seems very obvious, probably to you, Liam, and maybe to a few people listening, but people like to think that the Crusaders and the Muslims that they were fighting were like a united monolith of some kind, and they were not. They were a gathering of people from different, I'm using the term nations here, though I use the term very lightly, with different rulers, different cultures, different ethics and morals, and all of them, more importantly, with their own political goals. The thing I could think of to base this on the most is an even worse, more useless religion-based UN. And that's the only thing I could think of.
Some dude in a white helmet just getting an arrow through the eye.
I used to be a peacekeeper like you until I took an arrow in the knee.
I sit here and say this one line 50 times an hour. My wife left me. No, these things aren't related. Shut up.
Now, one of the things that occurred during the Third Crusade was the Byzantine Empire, which controlled the Dardanelles and the city of Constantinople, kind of sat this one out. They even refused to give Frederick I, the Holy Roman Emperor, passage over the Bosphorus, which is considered kind of a dick move. Now, the reason for this is because they believed that he was working with two breakaway Byzantine regions, Serbia and Bulgaria, which, for his own means.
Go, man.
Yeah, something that no other ruler of Constantinople would have problems with in the future. And to be fair, he was, but still telling the Holy Roman Empire and Emperor to go fuck themselves made them look really bad to other Christians who were trying to do a crusade. And granted, all of these other guys also had their own beats with Byzantium because fuck them, right? This led King Richard of England taking the Byzantine island of Cyprus, refusing to give it back, and then just selling it to the Knights Templar.
Nice. Oh, that's actually pretty fucking funny.
Have you ever smash and grabbed an entire island?
It's ours now.
Like,
look, it's this Frederick right on the door.
I'm not going to defend any kings of anywhere, but like, it's some big dick energy. Like, no. It's mine now, and I'm selling it to these fucking assholes.
I mean, to continue to bum us out, wasn't the Belgian occupation of Congo, wasn't that just King Leopold's like private colony?
For quite some time, yes. And then it became Belgian Congo, which is still a horror show. And like he didn't even sell it to a country. He's like, no, I'm going to give it to these fucking knights. Fuck you. That's why.
Joe, they guard the secret of the Holy Grail.
Again, thankfully, nothing else bad would ever happen to the island of Cyprus involving anyone ruling Constantinople.
Oh.
Also, the Holy Roman Empire almost wheeled back around and attacked Constantinople during the Crusade at one point before calling off the attack at the last second because they figured they'd probably be excommunicated. Now, this would be a fear that other people would stop caring about during the Fourth Crusade, which is going to be fun. Now, after the Third Crusade, Pope Innocent III rose to power in 1198. Now, one of the tenets of his rule was that he wanted another crusade, obviously the fourth, in order to secure even more of the lost Crusader land. I don't know. I guess much like the Fast and the Furious, Pope Innocent III could not quit while they were ahead.
Oh.
now I'm just imagining the Pope taking some time off, starring in Tokyo Drift.
I would watch that. You would watch the Fiat Pope Mobile kicking its ass out around the corner. Hell yeah, you'd watch that fucking movie.
Fuck yeah, I would. Now, this included obviously taking Jerusalem, the city itself, and reestablishing the kingdom like it had been once before. And he posted as much in his papal bull in August of 1198. Now, people weren't super happy about this at first because even though a lot of the powers that be really enjoyed Crusades in order to gain more power and wealth, they were pretty tired from fighting constantly. And the Pope knew how to drive this point home. So he simply started insulting the British and the French by saying the Muslims were laughing at them. Now,
that's good. That's good propaganda, baby. Just like those guys over there think you're a bunch of pussies.
Normally, you don't have to motivate the British and French to hate Muslims more. I don't know. This is a unique time in history. But even when shit talking worked, in reality, any crusade was going to be kind of hard to organize as the British and French were busy fighting one another in the First Hundreds-Year War at the time, a war that they would occasionally hit pause on. So a grand spectacle was put on in the form of a jousting tournament the next year in 1199. This is hosted by Count Tybalt of France. Once they're members of the church, knights, barons, kings, and all those other guys got incredibly drunk and emotional about taking the Holy Lands.
Oh, no. Dude, you know what we should do? Dude, bro.
I fucking love you, man.
Bro, I love you. Bro, I love you so much. You know what we should do? We should go take over Jerusalem, bro, as a family, bro. And that's the plot of Fast and Furious 10.
Oh, shit. That's only one movie away, I think,
I
at this
know,
point.
it's coming, buddy.
Vin Diesel and The Rock just kicking open doors of Jerusalem.
Sobbing, about family as a
about family.
Piano track plays in the background.
We should get the band back together for One More Heights, and it's just them just
job.
stealing El Oscar Mosque. Now, this obviously worked, taking oaths and coming together, because if there's one thing that Europeans love and can bond over, it's killing brown people. And after this, the Crusade moved on to the organization side of things, which I know a lot of people are probably groaning right now, but this is one of my favorite parts of this entire episode because of how incredibly stupid it is. I know we run the gamut from modern warfare to ancient warfare on the show, so sometimes the logistical systems can kind of blend together. So I like to shine the light on how dumb this shit used to be. I mean, it's still kind of dumb, but it was even dumber back then. Now, remember that, like I said, these are not a unified force. Not everyone in Europe is taking part in this. And even below, certain kings, their individual barons and knights and shit aren't taking. But this is all voluntary. So this meant that Count Tybalt and Count Baldwin of Flanders had to meet with various local leaders and how to best put together a force and get it over to the Holy Land, which, remember, is thousands of miles away.
Oh, Jesus.
Before we talked about in our previous episode in regards to the Crusade, that this was simply done in the hardest way possible. The army would simply march overland towards the Middle East. This would take months, drain resources, and almost always ended in people dying of horrible diseases and starvation before they even fucking got there. Because it turns out in the 1100s, it was not a good time to get together with tens of thousands of your friends and go camping in the woods.
Once one of us has dysentery, we all have dysentery.
Let's all just shit on each other. God wills it. Now, not to mention, this required every nation along that marching route to agree to let in what amounted to be a biblical swarm of locusts onto their lands that would pick it clean and steal everything that wasn't fucking bolted down, whether it be for loot or food as they passed through. This, as it turns out, was not fucking popular.
No?
These armies are fucking huge. During the People's War, or the People's Crusade, which is decidedly not a people's war, actually. It was tens of thousands of starving peasants just knocking on the gates of some Hungarian city, and they're like, no, fuck off. We don't want you here. As they ripped up even the grass and trees outside to try to eat them.
Oh, God.
So not super
That's good
popular.
roughage, I guess.
Yeah, well, they had no food because they left before the harvest, and the food they did have had some was poisoned with ergot, so it caused them to trip manically and shit their pants until they died.
Nice. Ergot is also possibly what caused mass delirium for the Salem witch trials. I read that one somewhere.
I believe it. Food sanitation not high on the list in history until about 100 years ago.
No.
And even then, it was pretty fucking rudimentary. Like, people still weren't washing their hands. So, like, you can imagine the 1100s where someone, like, goes out to the wood line, fucking pops a squat, shits, wipes their ass with some leaves.
Take my dick out and put it between two slices of bread.
And then, like, walks back over to your communal rice bowl or whatever, and then just, like, fist fucks it with their shit-covered hand. They're like, why is everybody dying?
I appreciate that.
Now, more than often and more than once, one of these nations would be like, no, get the fuck off my land, which would lead to a small war along the way to the real war they had planned since the beginning. We're still, even if everything went just right, and your various soldiers did not, in fact, die of horrible parasites or invade a random city along the way, the army would then, in best case situation, still arrive marching through the Middle East in the middle of the fucking desert through hostile lands, tired from months of walking, and then have to fend off a goddamn war. So, bad.
That sounds like a recipe for success to me, Joe.
Can't possibly fail. Yeah, I'm
Operation
actually
cannot possibly fail.
And now you just like backpack through Europe with modern amenities. Back then, you just wore what amounted to be kind of sandals, wore homespun rags, and then shuffled through the Hungarian countryside dying of internal parasites.
That's what I did when I backpacked through Europe.
That's the true experience. Anything, taking a shower really ruins the immersion.
Soft.
In my day, we would backpack through Hungary until I shit myself and died. Yeah. And not to mention tripping balls the whole time because your brain is melting from ergot.
Which would be pretty tight, admittedly, but
if I was to die, I would like a way that would make me so out of my own mind I don't know I'm dying.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah. Exactly.
So if we're ranking how peasants could die in the fucking dark ages, it's not the worst. You could just starve, or I don't know, someone kills a horse and puts it in your water supply or something. So everybody realized this is a very bad idea, and they came up with a new plan. They would simply contract out a bunch of boats and sail to Egypt and march from there. Now, you notice I said contract, not just like deploy their own navies. That's because those really weren't a thing yet. Like, state-controlled navies were a new idea, and so not many people had
from
one.
A dude?
Venice.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Most of these guys didn't have a navy, or if they did have a navy, it was way too small to transport what was going to be tens of thousands of men, thousands of horses, and all of the supplies they thought that they would need, right? Like in the case of the Byzantine Empire, the emperor made his brother-in-law the admiral of the navy, who then used his newfound powers to literally part it out and sell it for his own personal gain.
Genius. That's amazing.
He did this to the point it left the empire with no functional navy. Like, this is a little bit of a side story, but this man literally sold entire ships to anyone with money. And he gave none of the profits back to the empire and instead just built a sick new palace with the money.
Yo, good for him. That's tight, man. That's genius.
You gotta admire that. You get sometimes
the chutzpah, yeah.
You just gotta admire it. And even funnier is a lot of these got sold to Venice. It was
all roads through Venice.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, sure, we'll do a deal with your despotic idiot brother.
Give it to us, we guess.
So 6 knights traveled to Venice, the trade and naval powerhouse of the era. There they would arrange for passage for 4,500 knights with their mounts, 9,000 squires, and sergeants who were feudal men-at-arms, which are just like dudes of less than knightly rank, as well as 20,000 ordinary footmen, for a grand total of 33,500 men and 4,500 horses. So to cut this deal, they met with the 80-year-old Doge Dandolo, the elected leader of Venice, and a man who, by all accounts, is almost entirely blind and also had a name that made him sound like the cousin of Tom fucking Bombadil.
Dad?
Like Doge is a title,
Yes.
and I can't like I don't know if anybody was not aware of that, but I cannot not laugh every time I had to write it because obviously, like any other grown adult and professional historian, when I see Doge, I think of the dog memes, not the fucking crypto coin. All right.
Such power. Much Navy. Wow.
Like, I just want to Photoshop the dog's head on the old fucking guy, like Venetian guy who is also like blind. So I guess he's wearing sunglasses or something. I don't know. I may have just made this Doge problematic. I don't fucking know. But I like it. Now, obviously, the Doge agreed. The price for this armada would be 84,000 marks of silver. If anybody's asking how much that is in real money nowadays, I have no fucking idea. A lot. It's a lot of money. Now, to go one further, Doge made Venice not just a mere supply contract, not like yield military contractor, but a full partner in the Crusade.
Blackwater.
Yeah. Oh, God. Imagine if Venice was controlled by Blackwater. Everybody would have to walk around in 511 pants, Oakley sunglasses, and fucking
Have you guys heard of our
shirts.
tactical gondolas? Just drinking Black Rifle coffee. I don't know. Doing
Gondolas
war
with
crimes.
Molly all up and down the side for no fucking reason.
Talk to me about how Eddie Gallagher is actually a good guy. I don't fucking know.
We must go see Doge fucking Eddie. Hindley.
Oh, no thanks.
Every child is born in a fucking a subdued American flag is tattooed directly onto their sternum for reasons that aren't entirely sure because America doesn't exist yet. So he wanted Venice to be a 100% shared partner of this crusade. He didn't want to be like a side piece. Now, in return,
Side piece.
Crusade side piece. We're coining all sorts of very cursed items already. Now, in return for a half share of all conquests, Venice would provide an escort force of 50 fully manned and armed war galleys, something that no other power in Europe could offer. The Great Fleet would sail in the summer of the next year, 1202. Now, just in time for all this, Tybalt died.
Convenient.
Yeah, he took the easy way out. This left the organization and leadership of this entire enterprise under the Italian count named Boniface I.
Oh boy,
yeah, it does not go great. But this switch of leadership didn't slow the crusade down. Didn't really matter. They went ahead with their plan. During the late spring of 1202, the Crusaders began to gather at Venice. But by the intended departure date, they had managed...
the worst orgy I'd ever been to.
Oh, God, everybody just fucking reeks.
Picture it.
Because they all had to get to Venice somehow, so they walked. Nobody's
a bunch
bathing.
Of sweaty dudes. That's a lot of sweaty dudes. Just like 2006 Warped Tour.
Oh, as someone who was at that Warped Tour, I can confirm.
Yep.
No, thank you. Shout out to the Detroit organizers of the Warped Tour who decided to put it in a blacktop parking lot.
In there.
In July.
We don't know why all these people are passing out of heat exhaustion. Mystery Dawes, see ya.
Why are all these teenagers on drugs dying? Oh, weird. Must be the drugs. But so by the time the departure date came around, they only had 10,000 men who had actually gotten to Venice. Everybody else is apparently came down from their crusade drunk. I really don't want to do that. So when you get drunk and make plans with your drunk friends and then the next day rolls around and nobody's calling anybody.
We're going to get breakfast together.
Yeah.
In Constantinople.
So 10,000 men is a whole of a hell lot less than 33,500 that the Crusaders told the Venetians were coming. This brought up several very large problems for everyone. Each man was supposed to pay his way on the Venetian boats. This would cover the charter fee required by Venice in order to use their boats. But there was no central government, or there wasn't Boniface didn't have a bag full of money for everybody to hand over all at once. each soldier had to bring their own money to pay passage. With most of them not showing up, that meant the Crusaders did not have nearly enough fucking money to pay Venice. And if that sounds bad, it actually gets much worse. Not only did they not have enough money to pay Venice, they suddenly found themselves in an incredible amount of Venetian debt that they did not even think about at first. Venice is a massive seafaring trade powerhouse, but they also didn't just have enough boats for tens of thousands of people laying around. So they had to facilitate this mission by suspending regular trade to build and retrofit their existing fleet in order to carry it out. The Crusaders' toll that they were paying was to cover that debt. Now, the Doge, I'm sure completely accidentally, did not in fact tell the Crusaders they were taking on debt with this mission, but they were.
They'll figure it out. Fuck them.
Now the Venetians were put out. Not only did they burn through their own treasury, they went into debt, assuming the Crusaders would make up the difference until they can make a killing on war loot, which is, in reality, the entire purpose that anybody ever went on Crusades. The Crusaders didn't have enough money to pick up the tab for the 20,000 or so people who were missing, not to mention they didn't have enough money to pay off the Venetian debt. The Venetians told the Crusaders if they didn't pay up, the Crusade would be shit-canned on top of expecting all of the crusading nobles to pay off the debt. Lest, of course, all of the European powers taking part run afoul of arguably the richest and most powerful nation in the world at the time. Now, this effectively killed the Crusade on the spot, as well as put everyone in a very, very bad place. But the Venetians hit the Crusaders with a proposition. You play video games, right?
I don't want to make 11s out of 11, 11 8 out of 11s. I just want to go home.
you ever played Skyrim or any other RPG? The branching quest line when they're like, I went here for one main quest line, but now this asshole's giving me 10 other ones in order to get to that one.
Yep.
This is a side quest.
Oh, no.
The Venetian said, we can totally make this work for you, but you have to make this work for us. They would suspend the Crusader debt if they invaded and took over the port of Zara, the port controlled by Hungary, who were Christian.
Uh-oh.
How does every crusade end up fucking Hungary somehow? It's kind of incredible.
Hope you guys like schisms.
Obviously, some crusaders were really fucking unhappy with this, and this included the leader of the crusade, Boniface I, who's like, fuck this, I'm going home, and ditched his own army.
Which is peace? He just
went home. He's like, this isn't
him, man.
This, I have nothing to do with this anymore. This is clearly the Doge's enterprise now. This dude ran circles around in politics and finance by an 80-year-old blind man in the 1200s.
That's tough.
Yeah, which is getting out-muscled by someone who's 150 today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But some people went along because they're like, well, I'm already here. I sold probably most of my shit in order to get here, assuming
might as
I was
well
going to
go sack some city.
Yeah, they probably assumed they'd be living in Jerusalem or, more likely die in the desert somewhere. They didn't have anywhere to go home to. The Holy War had been co-opted becoming the mob guy who just kneecaps other people for not paying their debt. Many knights saw this for what it was and went home, but the invasion of Zara went on, where it fell after a short siege. Afterwards, a fistfight between the Frankish and Venetian factions over the distribution of loot killed 100 people.
That's a hell of a fistfight.
Which, admittedly, was almost as many people killed in the siege. Most of the population of Zara saw it coming and just fucking left. So it was almost a siege over an empty city.
Gotcha.
For this, the Pope excommunicated his own Crusader army in 1203, though he eventually undid that excommunication for any non-Venetians a few months later.
It's funny how that works.
The Pope just rubbing his temples, what the fuck? What are these guys doing?
You did what now? What do you mean you sacked a Christian city?
That's in the wrong direction. They're not even
Go south, dumbass!
I give you one city. Now, the Crusaders sat in Zara over the winter, not sure what to do next. Because the Pope undid the excommunication, I believe, in February. So, for a couple months, they were sitting there fuck, we can't go home. That was until they were given an offer, again, that they couldn't refuse. the discarded son of the last deposed emperor of Byzantium, had come to France to plead his case. Alexios IV said that if the Crusaders ditched their plan on landing in Egypt and instead attacked Constantinople and put him on the throne,
oh, how convenient.
He would pay their entire debt to the Venetians, as well as put the Eastern Orthodox Church under the command of the Pope, vastly expanding the Catholic Church's power. The Doge obviously thought this was a fucking great idea. Not only would this square the Crusader debt, something he still had not paid off, but it would make Venice's main trade rival indebted to him. Not to mention the Doge hated the fucking Byzantines, and there's some apocryphal stories that they were the one that blinded him, though nobody's entirely sure. So, this might also be payback of some kind.
Sure.
So not only fucking them over, but also making an incredible amount of money was perfect. The Crusaders thought the plan was great. It would get them out of debt, and even after Zara, the Pope would have to forgive them because they brought in the Orthodox Church. Of course, leaving out the fact this required you to take over Constantinople by force.
Yeah, all right, that's fine, I'm sure.
Now, this brought several other problems to the front. While the Doge and a few other lords have been plotting to turn this entire crusade into a little more of a cash grab, they hadn't stopped long enough to educate themselves in just how the Byzantine government actually fucking worked. Or they just didn't care, which is probably more likely. The Byzantine Empire was not an explicit dynastic role. It was more of a president of life with absolute power.
Oh, that'd be tight.
Man, do I have some countries for you. Well, sometimes it passed within families. Most of the time it didn't. And being the brother of an emperor didn't fucking mean anything. It didn't mean he had a claim to the title in any way. Yeah. So when they sailed by Constantinople, Dandolo came up with this great idea of dressing Alexios as emperor, and then having him hang out on the boat as they floated by the city to show people look, we're coming with a better emperor for you. As dumb as that really sounds.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Scoreboard. It didn't work. It turns out nobody gave a fuck.
I can't believe our genius plan didn't work out.
And the Doge believed that people, because the Alexios that's in power, it's Alexios is all the way down, was not very popular.
Of course.
He was not very great at his job. But the Doge believed that if they saw this other guy, they're gonna just have a revolution. Instead, they shot arrows at them.
That didn't work out.
Yeah, that should have been a hint that something was not going to work.
Yeah, maybe turn around.
But they went ahead anyway. Disregarding the idea of a popular uprising, they settled for a siege.
How was that plan B?
I don't know. And this
one trick ponies.
When all you have is Alexios's, everything just kind of looks like a nail, I guess. And they lost even more Crusaders because they're whoa, I am not invading Constantinople. Either because of my personal ethics, disagree with it, or because that looks really fucking hard.
Which is a good of a reason as any, I think.
Yes. Because, Constantinople, legendarily hard to besiege, right? But, they just kind of shrugged, said fuck it, and left again to besiege the city. Now, for people unaware, the city of Constantinople is known for being incredibly hard to besiege, take over, invade, whatever. And it was also very easy to defend, assuming you have a semi-competent guy in charge. It could only be attacked from land from the west, which were guarded by walls that had gone down in history for their strength, and a harbor, which was protected by a giant fucking chain that stopped most boats from getting in. Armies much larger and better organized, and maybe not ones fighting over a mob debt, had tried and failed to take the city before. They decided they should attack along the Golden Horn harbor front, which was guarded by a fortress known as the Tower of Galata. Probably pronouncing that wrong. When the Crusaders landed, they were immediately opposed by an army led out the gates by the Byzantine emperor himself. Well, kind of heroic, the emperor's army broke after a single charge by a unit of French knights.
Fucking pussies.
Who quickly went on to take the tower without much more of a struggle.
That's embarrassing.
How bad do you have to be as an emperor for your own
legendarily defended city, too?
Yeah. Yeah, like how bad do you have to be as like an emperor, like the highest fucking ranking person, for like someone to like, I'm fine looking like shit in front of you and I'm running away.
See you, dude.
Bye, motherfucker. I don't have to outrun the French. I just have to outrun the emperor. Like I said, the harbor was protected by chains stretching across the length of them, which were, again, very hard to breach. The Byzantines didn't think of it as much of a threat because how secure they were. And the Venetians broke it pretty easily, actually. They simply had a transport ship with like a fuckload of rowers get a head start and just kind of bonsai charge into the chain, which broke the chain and also completely obliterated the ship and killed most of the crew.
You died for a noble cause or whatever.
Now, this opened the way for the others behind it. And now with a foothold, the Det army attacked into the city itself. It would be a two-pronged attack with the Venetians using their ships as siege towers, with additions being built out on the fly with extra spears as like weight buttresses or whatever, and then like random bits of whatever they could find to be platforms on top of it.
Oh, that's fucking sick.
And they built these over so many different like levels that people would have to climb over that they could just like jump from the floating siege tower right onto the top of the wall to fight. Which I don't know how insane or ballsy you have to be to scramble up a fucking siege tower made out of extra spears on a floating like a platform that's rocking back and forth because you're on the ocean.
I am.
Yeah, I'd be like, nah, man, fuck that.
See ya.
Yeah, I am gonna go find an opening with like the rower guy. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna die either way, but at least this way I'm not rocking while I'm doing it.
Does anybody need any paperwork signed?
being a Det army's quartermaster.
Does anybody need any more spears? I'll go get them for you. You guys have good luck with that. Yeah, like soldiers were jumping from the boats directly into the walls and fighting, while the French would try to attack across the ground where they felt more comfortable against a different section of the wall. Now, the Venetians succeeded in doing so, and during the fighting, they managed to set some buildings on fire, which quickly spread throughout the city by strong winds. Now, the French attack did not go so successfully. Their scaling ladders were pretty easy to deal with and were thrown back, which sounds like funny. Fuck that. These walls are tall as shit. You get thrown off those ladders, you are dead. You're dead as shit.
You're fucked. Enjoy your broken ass back and your broken ass everything.
Yeah, like remember, falling off this ladder and breaking your leg means you might die because it is the 1200s.
Of dysentery, though, for some reason.
We went to cut off the broken stump of his leg and diarrhea came out.
Brown bile.
Yeah, he's got too much of his yellow humors are all off. We need to bleed him. Oh, that's diarrhea too.
Diarrhea of the soul.
As they try to figure out what to do on the shore, the Byzantines counterattacked to rush out and fight them. Now, this cut off the French, which left the Doge, who was on the front line. Remember, he's an 80-year-old,
like 200 years old.
It's like that scene from Lord of the Rings. It's like, you shall not pass, but he's just like staring at the wall. Sir,
over here, Doge. Over here.
Sir, the front line is over here.
Get you out of here, bud. Why don't you get you some cream of oat, bud?
But this left the Doge in a bad position because they controlled over a mile of the city's wall. But if the French were cut off and surrounded and unable to secure their spot, that meant the Venetians could surround them and slowly push them out of their position. So he made the decision to abandon the secured side of the walls and rush off to help the French. But this is actually the one smart Byzantine strategy that was deployed here. Once they saw the Venetians break and come towards the French, they simply called their attack off, went back into the city, and retook the walls the Venetians had just abandoned. So, the one good move here, they managed to fuck both the Venetians and the French at the same time. Yield pig roast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But temporary victory.
I wanted to fucking hear.
You're welcome. You're welcome for my service.
Thanks, Joe.
But temporary victory was not enough. Now, the Byzantine emperor almost immediately after this realized that he was not going to fucking win. or that maybe, he may have won the battle, but the church was just going to send more reinforcements because they obviously support the Crusades, which they didn't. There was no reinforcements coming.
My boy panicked, though, I assume.
Yeah, that night he grabbed his favorite mistress.
Oh, boy.
Not his wife. One of his kids, not the other 4, pocketed about all of the treasuries he could, and then fucked off out of the city, leaving his wife and several of his children behind.
That is, what a baller. Wow. If you're the wife, like, I know you can't get divorced because it's like 1204 or whatever, but like, wow, that's such a dick move.
Yeah, that's the legendarily dick move. Not only did he
So
fuck his own
rude.
family over, he fucked over like 1 million people all at the same time.
Well, deuces.
After this, the nobles of the city said, fuck, we don't have an emperor, and reinstated Alexios IV's father as emperor, despite the fact that he was old, delusional, and completely blind.
Hey, you don't talk about my dad that way.
Which,
William Anderson's a nice man.
for all of those reasons, actually made it illegal for him to be emperor.
He made it like a law specifically against him.
It was at a certain age you could no longer rule.
Okay.
Yeah,
Plus
and he was several years beyond that, and just like a doddering, like it, everybody says that like during his last term, Reagan was pretty much not there because
he was being guided by the astrologist.
Yeah, this guy is by the accounts vary, but he was not in control of his own faculties. Like he had to like be walked over to the throne, like you're emperor again. He was like, hash browns.
Have you guys seen 51st Dates?
Every morning he wakes up, he has to be reminded that he's emperor of Byzantium. I would watch that movie.
I would also watch that movie, actually.
Now, seeing themselves outmaneuvered here, because remember, the Doge was like, we got rid of him. We can go plop the Alexios IV right there on the throne. Problem solved. Like, we have our emperor. He's like, fuck, they elected a different guy. So, but, they were still outside the city, rightfully assumed that the war was still going in their favor, even though they hadn't won quite yet. And they demanded that Alexios IV be crowned co-emperor alongside his old shitty dad, despite the fact co-emperor not being a thing that had previously existed.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I debate you in the battlefield of ideas with my huge fucking army. Make him co-emperor. They're like, we see your point.
We got it,
Yeah. You make a convincing argument
As
with
you're
your
getting run through
fleet.
with a sword, yeah.
So they agreed, and the nobles gave to the Doge's demands, and they marched into the city victors and sat their chosen idiot on the throne alongside his half-dead dad. But so at this point, remember, their goal was not Constantinople. They still have a whole Jerusalem to take over, right?
Right.
In case anybody forgot what the main quest line here was.
So we couldn't blame you.
But it was too late in the season to continue their crusade as planned towards the Holy Land. Now, remember, this is 2 invasions and 1 excommunication ago, so I forgive you for losing track. So they would simply have to wait until spring for the promised Byzantine money, because remember, Alexios IV said, I'll pay off your debts, I'll do this, that, and the other thing, like, you'll be set for life because you made me emperor, bro. So they just had to sit there and wait until, he filled his side of the deal. Small problem. The empire was bankrupt. Whoops! Because remember, the last fleeing emperor stole like literally the entire treasury as he went, and most of the city had been burnt down by that whole war thing. And while everyone involved were technically allies now, they fucking hated one another. The Byzantines hated the Crusaders, for obvious reasons. Yeah, you burnt down my city, you dick. And the Crusaders still hated each other, and they also hated the Byzantines, who they believed were heretics and cowards. So Alexios IV knew that he would be fucked. So he started literally melting down Roman and church artifacts for their gold and silver content in order to pay off the debt that he had taken on.
Oh boy.
But it still was not enough. Some of the things that he ordered to be melted down were like religious and church icons.
Yeah. Okay.
And this might shock you. This was unpopular. This led to massive riots within the city, leading to another chunk of the city being burnt down. Then the Crusaders, who were the only functioning military force still within the city, attempted to put these riots down. I assume with all the finesse and guile of Seattle Police Department. And they also succeeded in burning down more of the city. By 1204, Isaac II, the blind old deaf half of the emperorship, died.
Oh no!
Leaving the whole throne to Alexios IV. But not quite.
Who could have foreseen this coming?
Because remember, the Senate of the Byzantine Empire did not elect Alexios IV. So the Crusaders assumed that, one of them died. That means our other guy's in charge is the full emperor now.
No.
Instead, the Senate elected a new emperor.
Yes.
Who took one look at the Byzantine Empire and Constantinople, was like, yeah, I'm fucking out of here, and ran. He ended up running into a Catholic church and asking for protection. The Senate then chose another man, Alexios Doukas, to be the new emperor. So he then overthrew Alexios IV and had him strangled.
Oh, that's one way of doing it.
Yep.
Fair enough.
I believe in democracy of these hands.
Do you want to fight me? Do you want to catch these hands?
The new emperor, now known as Alexios V, refused to honor the deal with it that his idiot predecessor had made with the Crusaders, leading to a renewal of the war. The Crusaders saw they had like no hope of cooperating with this new emperor for obvious reasons, and they simply resolved to conquer the city and take the entire Byzantine Empire for themselves. Now, in this hypothetical situation, 6 French and 6 Venetian nobles were to elect a new emperor who would receive a quarter of the empire in his own name, with the rest of it being divided amongst French and Venetian holdings.
Sure.
About now, there was some evidence that Pope Innocent III demanded the Crusaders not attack the city again. But that letter, which would have acted as a papal order, mysteriously went missing and never made it to Constantinople and never made it to the Crusaders themselves. Now, most people theorize that this was probably done by a sympathetic church official that was like on the Crusader side. It's like, whoop, order's gone.
Oh no!
Weird.
Who knows where it went? Crazy how that happens.
Now, up until this point, Alexios V had been doing a much better job defending his city compared to all the other Alexioses that had been emperor this year, right? But a group of soldiers that were mostly the backbone of the entire defense were known as the Vargarian Guard. These were axe-wielding Anglo-Saxon soldiers, and they have been doing most of the killing and most of the dying, for that matter, for him. Now, they took this opportunity to kind of go on strike. They refused to continue fighting unless they got a raise. Good for that, man.
One union, one big union.
International Vargarian Guard Workers Association. Now, when this happened, the Crusaders set the city on fire again. I don't even know what they were burning at this point. And without the Vargarian Guard, it was pretty much the straw that broke the camel's back. The city fell on April 13th, 1204. And yet another Alexios ran from the city, leaving the throne open. Rather than just
love to do that shit, huh?
You love to set Constantinople on fire, don't we, folks?
Run for it, yeah. For some reason.
It'd be a shame if that happened to the modern Constantinople. Nate, cut that out.
Leave it in.
That's not an actionable threat. It was amusing.
Nate, you baby.
Now, rather than just marching in and sitting another Alexios on the throne, the Crusaders went on a three-day-long orgy of violence, ruthlessly sacking the city. And despite threats of excommunication, they murdered and raped nuns, which the Pope seemed to be fine with.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he was like, don't you do that. Oh, you're doing it. Don't you do that again. Oh, they're doing it again.
No.
I will write you a strongly worded letter about how I feel about this. Like I said, religious UN. And remember, he excommunicated them for a couple months for attacking a city. That was beyond the pale. But literally
Nun
raping clergy was too far. And just to be clear, it was not just nuns.
Oh, yeah. I figured, right?
Yeah. This city was absolutely fucking just destroyed. Now, they raided churches, mosques, normal homes. Everything that wasn't already burnt several times over was stolen. The Crusaders wanted money more than prizes. Remember, they have fucking debts they got to pay off. And like lugging back some like church icons, you can't deposit that into the Venetian bank account. So instead of stealing monuments or works of art, they melted them down to their core elements. This included just a ton of religious icons. Like these guys who are going on a crusade, like, tear that cross down and get me that fucking gold, bitch.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Crusaders, not great people.
Yeah, who'd have thought?
I was going to make a joke and then you ruined it with the nun fact. Do you want to hear the joke?
I want to hear the joke now. Yeah, you can't just leave me hanging like that.
Relentlessly sacking? Ask me about my sex life.
Oh, God damn it. Now, the juxtaposition to this is actually kind of funny because while the Crusaders were like melting, like they were effectively me in high school ripping copper out of walls and shit to sell for money.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
While the Venetians were carting away entire statues and monuments to be brought back home.
I love the idea of like you like wading into like Midtown Detroit and just like knocking over a statue and being like, Joey's gonna have 40s this weekend, 40s for everybody.
Just kicking over the Spirit of Detroit statue to drag home and put in my front lawn. Like nothing was fucking spared here. They like broke into dead emperors' tombs, like stole everything was out of them, and then like left their skeletons in the middle of the road, which is the only kind of looting I'm fine with, actually. I'm fine with looting the tombs of emperors. Fuck them.
Whatever, they're already dead. Yeah, what do they need them for?
And they're emperors. They're being buried with more riches than I will ever see in my entire life. Loot the shit out of them. This podcast does not condone grave robbing. So there,
sometimes,
that's covered.
Sometimes
consensual grave robbing. I don't know. Now you can actually still see some of these looted treasures. If you, for some reason, find yourself in Venice, or you are a listener who happens to be in Venice, you will see 4 giant statues made out of bronze at St. Mark's Basilica. And those were originally part of a monument in Constantinople that was stolen and dragged back to the city after the sacking. And though at one point in 1797, Napoleon looted those same horses from Venice and brought them to Paris, they were then re-looted and brought back to Venice.
That's terrific.
Now, roughly the total amount looted here was around 900,000 silver marks, which was split up, but most of this went back to the Venetians. And if you remember, their debt was like 80,000. So, like, they made a fucking killing here. Now, the Byzantine Empire at this point was effectively destroyed. They were cut down to little more than nothing. Most of its territories were divided amongst Crusaders. And when the smoke cleared, they crowned Baldwin of Flanders the first emperor of the new Latin Empire.
Good for him, man.
The Doge had been offered that position at first, but turned it down, probably after being told how much shit had been stolen and realizing whoever took this mess over would have to govern it. So he went back to Venice.
Smart man.
Now, Byzantium would be restored, famously in 1282, but it would never regain its previous power. And hilariously enough, this historical sacking of the crown of Christendom, all sparked because of a group of assholes couldn't pay off their debts, directly led to the future Ottoman conquest, ending in the fall of Constantinople in 1453 and the collapse of mainstream or powerful Christendom in the East. Which means, of all of the things we've ever talked about, this might just go down the greatest cell phones in all of history.
Oh, yeah. You managed to collapse your own society. Congratulations. Because you got drunk with your friends and you just had to make plans the next day. And
just a reminder, this started as a planned invasion of Jerusalem, which never occurred.
I love that.
They got to Constantinople and burnt themselves. Like, I'm kind of tired from all that looting and nun rape. I guess I'm just gonna go home. Yeah, let's just go home.
See you guys. Catch you on the flip side, like burning torches behind you.
Yeah, it turns out the true crusade is the friends we made along the way and the cities we set on fire. That doesn't flow so well.
Who gives a shit?
So, Liam,
Yes,
we do a segment on this show called Questions from the Legion. I guess this is the drop for that. If you would like to ask us a question from the Legion, donate to the show. You can ask us through Patreon, through our Discord, which is normally where I get them from if you don't send them to me on Patreon. Or you could contract a ship in Venice, sail to Constantinople. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Today's question from the Legion is: which world leader would you want to go to dinner with, and what would you talk about?
Give me
I'm going to set a ground rule here. You cannot invite someone to dinner just so you can physically assault them.
give me Trudeau, because like the guy is just this perfect representation of like smug Canadian white dickheads. That like I need like, and I know his dad was prime minister and therefore he believes it's his birthright, but like Trudeau is one of those people I just want to be like, why do you think you're anything more than a mediocre white dude? Like, who told you you were special?
He did his best to not be a mediocre white man by covering himself in blackface.
That's true. That's a good point. And I do want to fight Justin Trudeau. Open the border, pussy.
Open the border, catch these hands, 2021. I unfortunately set a ground rule that you can't invite them to dinner solely to fight them, which cuts.
That takes out your guy, I imagine.
A lot of them, mostly all of them.
Certainly takes out Erdogan.
And Aliyev. I got nothing left. I can't even have dinner with the Armenian prime minister because I kind of want to fight him too.
I'd be interested in meeting Xi Jinping.
I would not.
Like, I don't know. I want to meet all these fucking weirdos.
I would. Oh man, I got nothing here.
I have actually met Joe Biden, so
I have never met a head of state. While they're head of state, anyway.
Hillary Clinton once told me told my mother I was the cutest baby she'd ever seen.
Is that what? Oh, never mind. I'm not finishing that.
Yes. Yeah, she was a liar then, and she's a liar now. I was a cute baby. I just wasn't that cute.
I'm going to say Emmanuel Macron.
I had Macron next.
Now, he falls under 99% of the same problems that Trudeau has, in my opinion, where, you know, he is very French and all of the problems that come with that. But he was also the only world leader who stood up for Armenia during the 2020 war. So I guess you do not, in fact, have to hand it to any head of state, but at least I'd give him a high five for that. Because I can't say anything else. It would be illegal.
People are just like, I can't believe he won. And I'm just like, he wasn't Le Pen. That's all he was running on.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It. That's the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. And I mean, he covers the baseline French racism of hating Muslims without being an outright Nazi, which is all some people want. So, Liam, thank you for joining us here today. Everyone, thank you for coming over and listening to...
Wait, why am I thanking you for having me? This is my show, Joe.
I always thank... I thanked Nick, I don't know, 150 fucking times, and he was my co-host. So, I always like to thank the people...
Thank you for appearing on my show, Joe.
Now also plug your other show.
Oh, yeah, go listen to Well, There's Your Problem. Yeah, it's a show about engineering disasters and some other stuff.
With
when
slides.
People ask us to record it with slides.
And everybody, thank you again for supporting the show. You make everything do possible. And until next time, don't do Crusades.
Don't do Crusades. Especially don't find yourself indebted to an 80-year-old blind man.